So in evolutionary phase, in 1949, Indian Bank or RBI was treated as a central bank of India, and the special rights given to the Reserve Bank of India, minting and printing of the currency. Then in the foundation phase, there was 2 to 3 steps was taken by the government of India. The first thing, the Imperial Bank was converted into SBI, State Bank of India, under the SBI Act 955. In same year, license was issued to one of the private company for the corporate finance, for the industrial finance point of view. That was ICICI, Industrial Credit and Investment Corporation of India. In 1958-59, Six Bank was collaborated with SBI, State Bank of India. That was by State Bank of Patiala, Tirmarkor, Hyderabad, and two more. In the important part is that in 1968-69, in the tenure of Indira Gandhi, 14 banks were nationalized for the banking sectors, and from that time, Indian banking system was running and operating in the organized way. So there were the 14 banks which were nationalized, and after 1982, 6 more banks was also nationalized. So this is about the foundation phase. After that, in 1991, when the LPG era came into existence, that was the reformatory phase. And in reformatory phase, this was the remarkable change in the Indian banking system. So I would like to say one thing. After the 1991, when the Narasimhan Committee given the review report to the government of India, then the government given the license to the private companies for the banking sector. So the banking sectors working, and my private banking sectors working in Indian banking sector. And under the FDI, foreign direct investment, foreign institutional investors, and foreign portfolio investors point of view, the door was open for the foreign bank. So this is all about the third phase. Now fourth phase was started after the digital banking. Now this is the 4 phases of Indian banking system. Now the organizational structure of Indian banking system is this. RBI is the apex monetary agency, and there is the commercial banks, scheduled banks, which are working under the State Bank, Reserve Bank of India. Prashant sir, can you please share the first PPT? Yes, this one. So commercial bank includes private sector banks, public sector banks, foreign banks, and RRBs, along with cooperative banks. Scheduled banks means registered in second schedule of RBI Act 1935. These banks are called the scheduled bank. Non-scheduled banks, there are some rules related to non-scheduled banks. And after that, I have explained the SBI and Associate, Nationalized Bank, other public sector banks. Now I want to explain the RRBs. What are the RRBs? Regional rural banks. At that time, there was the demand of the market that particular bank should be established for the sponsor point of view, for the loan point of view in the rural area. So Government of India and Reserve Bank of India passed a resolution for the regional rural bank. These banks are basically sponsoring and approving the loan for the rural sectors, cottage industry, artisans. It was established in 1975. Regional rural banks, 50% ownership is in the hand of Central Bank, Government of India. 35% shares in the hand of different banks, because 35% of the fund is sponsored by the different banks to the regional rural bank. Then 15% in the hand of state bank. I mean, it's not state bank, state government. So this is the first commercial bank. And collectively we can say the public sector, private sector, foreign, regional rural banks, and cooperative banks. Collectively, these are called as the commercial bank. Commercial bank is not a different banks. These are the called as the commercial bank. What about the cooperative banks? Cooperative banks are working under the Cooperative Society Act 1860, and license is given by the RBI, but some special exemptions, subsidies given to this cooperative bank. Now we are moving to the next one. Next slide, please. Development bank. Next one is development bank. Apart from commercial bank, these are the development banks. Development banks are basically, it is not open for the public, common public, because they cannot ask for the demand deposit. These banks are basically developed for the development of the different sectors of the industry and different part of the industry. First bank is development bank. These banks are basically for the corporate and industrial development. I'm giving an example. There's an Industrial Finance Corporation of India, Industrial Development Bank of India, Small Industrial Development Bank of India. These banks are specially passed by the lower and upper house of the parliament for the special objectives. SIDBI was passed in 1990. National Housing Bank was passed in 1981. And after that, NABARD. NABARD means National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development. This bank was passed in the 1982 for the development of the agriculture sectors. And you know very well, Manrega is looking after by the monitoring by the NABARD bank. So then there's an export and import bank. Export and import bank basically established for the foreign exchange process, for the promotion of the export. It was basically developed under the DGFT, Directorate General of Foreign Trade, under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. So it is the part of the balance of payment, because Exim Bank is promoting the export and import in India just through the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. And it is also improving the balance of payment and export and import. So the next one is Housing Development Bank. Housing Development Bank is looking after different schemes approved by the Government of India and state government. These banks are sponsoring and approving the loan for this sector. Now I'm moving to the please next slide. This is the functions of Exim Bank, where the Exim Bank is giving the loan for the pre-shipment and post-shipment credit, line of credit, suppliers credit. For the import and import point of view, there's the company is asking for the loan. This bank is not open for the general public. They are just sponsoring the export import companies for the long term point of view. And one more thing is there. Apart from Indian banking system, there's also one of the organizational structure of the RBI. RBI, how Reserve Bank of India is working. There's a central board of directors. These directors are appointed from the different sectors of the Indian industry as well, from the different areas. Now, this bank, RBI, under the central board of directors, governors reporting to the central board of the directors. Under the governor, there are 4 deputy governors, but right now there are 3 governors, deputy governors in Reserve Bank of India. One is BP Kanugo, second is MK Jain, third one is MD Patra. Under the deputy governor, there are different executive directors are reporting to the deputy governors, then managers. Why I'm saying that the organizational structure of RBI is different from the Indian banking sector? Just because of RBI has the more than 26 branches and offices across the India, and to maintaining the operations of the different departments like enforcement department, risk monitoring department, financial market, operations, economic policy research. These are the maintained by the different managers, and they are reporting to the executive directors. Executive director reporting to the deputy governors. I'm giving a basic example. At the time of demonetization, when the board of directors asked to the Urjit Patel, at that time of the governor of RBI, that when we have withdrawn the more than 50 lakhs crore of rupees, 500 and 1,000 rupees, so then what is the actual, circulation of the 500 and 1,000 rupees is still in the Indian economy. So the governor has to report to the central board of the directors. So this is the related to the organizational structure of the Reserve Bank of India. Now I'm moving to the demonetization. Next slide, please. On 8 November 2016, Indian government withdrawn the tender of 500 rupees and 1,000 rupees. Why the government has withdrawn the tender of 500 rupees and 1,000 rupees? What is the reason behind it? Because the guarantee is given by the Government of India, and therefore Honorable Prime Minister at that time withdrawn the tender of 500 and 1,000 rupees for the Indian economy, Indian banking system. So demonetization, devaluation, disinvestment, these are the part of the components of the banking system. I would like to explain. Demonetization is the withdrawal of a particular form of currency from the circulation. It is a process by which a series of currency will not be legal tender. Legal tender means the guarantee is given by the Government of India to the RBI, and this series of currency will not acceptable as a valid currency. Demonetization history and background in India. It was not the first time which was announced by the Government of India. It was also taken place in 1946, 1978, where the 1,000 and 10,000 notes was also withdrawn from the market. Now, what is the major aim of demonetization? The first motive to make the India as a cashless economy, but it is not the easy task, because the India is one of the biggest country where the cash dealing is the major part of the economy. See, this is the diagram which is showing that the country which are dealing in the cash, number one is Indonesia. In the second number, India, where the 98% the transaction is in hard cash. This is the percentage of share of demonetization before domination before the demonetization, where the 1,000 rupees percentage 39% in the circulation, 48% of the 500 rupees in the circulation. What are the cause of the demonetization? Why it was announced by the government of India exactly in the calendar year of 2000, at the end of the calendar year of 2016? It was the exact time. This is the first question. So what are the cause behind it? The first thing is black marketing, currency storage, corruption, fake currency in the economy. This was the major cause which was the somehow affecting the Indian economy. Now the pros and cons of demonetization: attack on black money. The first priority was the government of India to stop the black marketing in Indian economy. So there will be 200% penalty. Before the demonetization, government of India given the two chances to the income tax payee, that those who are still not declared their TDS, they can pay the 30% of their income, and nobody is going to ask any question from the income tax department. You can easily convert black money into the white money. Second time, 60% given at the paying the 60% of their income, they can easily convert the black money into the white money. But at this time, Prime Minister of India, Ministry of Finance, given the signal to these types of income tax payee, other person, that we are going to take the strict action, then nobody will get the chance to convert the black money into the white money. That is called as the demonetization. This was the strict action taken by the government of India. So death knell to fake currency rackets. By banning the 500 and 1,000 notes, Modi ji has busted all these unethical rackets completely. No, there will be no use of this money. End of the test funding. You know, huge sum of money, especially in the hard cash of denominations of 500 and 1,000 was used for funding of Islamic terrorists. Next slides. Through the country like neighbor countries. Now these organizations will suffer from the shortage of the funds. This is the one of the reason of the demonetization. Buying arms, an extremely difficult task now after this ban. Transparency, online transaction. Now there will be more transparency in real estate sector. I would like to quote one more thing, that P. Chidambaram said that digital payment is no doubt is easy way for the transaction from one firm to other firm, from one person to other person. But there's in between one payment bank or the merchant, they are taking certain percentage of the transaction. So in the hard cash, there's no mediator. This is also one of the So we are moving to the next one. End of the huge donation, where the people are changing black money into white money just because of the donation system. You know that there's an NGO, NPO, non-profit organization, basically the school colleges, where the people are getting the 50% exemption under the 80G and 12A. So certain limitation was restricted by the government of India that especially in the political party, up to 20,000 cash transaction can be donated. More than that, there's a limitation. So 80G and 12A is also one of the part where the people can get the 50% exemption and converting the black money into white money. And the most important part is the real estate. Toward the cashless economy, no doubt it will be explained by our colleague. The Hawala transaction. What do you mean by Hawala transaction? Hawala transaction is that just like it is unauthorized and illegal way of doing the business, where the people from the abroad, they are collecting the money from the different skilled and unskilled labor, and through the real estate constructor and the sharafa and the gold merchant, they are transferring and delivering the black money to the different clients and converting through the NRI account black money into the white. So it is also one of the important steps taken by the government of India to stop these types of the illegal activities like Hawala. And rush at the bank. This is also one of the cons, where the huge crowd was in the queue to withdraw their own deposit from the CASA account, saving and current account. Then shortage of the money. There may be the not in the plan. There is shortage of the newly issued currency in the market of the 500 and 2,000 rupees. So this is also one of the cons of the demonetization. Then the stock market. No doubt, just we are comparing to the demonetization with the lockdown. At that time, there was a huge loss in the Sensex and Nifty. We can see that in the lockdown, it was decreased from the 42,000 to the 32,000 point in stock exchange. So due to currency being sucked out from the market, coupled with the Trump's victory, the mood at the stock market was completely bearish. Why is it bearish? Bearish means down of the stock exchange. Bullish means upgrading or increasing the stock exchange. Now problem for the housewives. The housewives are now they are in the queue to deposit their savings of the 500,000 rupees to the bank just because of the time bar given by the RBI to the different banks. Then short-term inflation. What is the meaning of inflation? When the volume of the currency is increased and the purchasing power of the currency is decreased, this situation is called as the inflation. And there is a shortage of the money in the market, and it is also indicating the shortest terms of inflation. The price of gold has already become sky high. Now you can see in the present scenario, the 10 gram of the price of the gold is around 48,000. Price of vegetables and fruits also soared, burdening the common man. Marriage season difficult for that, because this is the huge opportunities for the unemployed person to earn through this wedding seasons. So also hamper just because of demonetization. Now effects on the parallel economy. Real estate and property, gold and luxury goods, automobile industry. I am just quoting one example. More than 60% of the real estate investment is in the form of the cash, and somehow it is also in the black money. It was the easiest way to convert the black money into the white money through the real estate investment. So government of India, after demonetization, passed the GST. And after the GST, in 1st May 2017, RERA Act was also came into existence and full-fledged implemented across the India. So there was not chance to convert the black marketing into the black money into the white money, just because of the RERA Act. So somehow the government of India was taking the true steps for the transparency of the transactions, increasing the digital banking, digital payment. This is all about the effect of the price, no doubt, in the real estate property, consumer goods, price, MRP, all these things related to demonetization. Now, next thing, I would like to invite our colleague, Dr. Prashant sir. Please, over to you.
So thank you very much. I request you to stop presenting so that I can take up the PPT from here. And I welcome again everyone for joining the session. From here, we are going to check the effects of this demonetization over banking sector as well as economy as a whole. Okay, in long run and short run as well. Okay, I'm just trying to come up with the PPT. Just a second. Sir, is my PPT is visible to everyone now? Faisal sir, Shom sir, could you please just give? Okay.
Yes, sir.
And believe I'm audible to everyone again.
Yeah.
So thank you, sir, for handing over the same. We have checked out the effects of you can say this demonetization over GDP. We are able to check this thing. I'll just try to come up with this. Okay. So this is a normal study. We have n number of studies. It states that stock market, talking about the stock market, we can use this stock market as a barometer to check the growth in any economy. Okay. So Nifty, again, you can say a mirror of the Indian economy, we can see from there. It states that during this particular time in November 16, when the demonetization happened on 8th, Indian stock market just take a, you can say, a dip here. Okay. But it's a, you can say, momentary phase. Again, it start rising and move up. Okay. So as per this market trend, which we can see, we have studied, and this is a report from RBI as well. The point is, this demonetization, I mean, it haven't increased. I mean, you can say it converted into inflation or something. It is just a postponed, you can say, demand was postponed here. Indian economy take a shock here. The demand was postponed during this particular, you can say, phase until the situation is okay, and again economy started to rise. But the point is, the focus point of this of the government is to, you can say, increase these transactions, increase the accountability, decrease the cash flow, which is non-accounted in many, you can say, fields. So that was again happening. They just put n number of restrictions and regulations over the same to check the issue. That was happening. But as per the topic which we are discussing, what are the effect of this demonetization on Indian banking system? So I try to measure these things, and as per the reports which we are having, we can see the you can say sectoral growth. This is the classification of Indian economy into different sectors. It Indian Nifty, which is comprising in auto, energy, financial services, IT, metal, pharma, private bank, and PSU bank. So you can see here in the return slide, return of the year. This is the return which these sectors retained throughout the year in this 2016 to 17. Okay, for a year. Now coming to the return which is pre to this event, I mean before this demonetization, the return on this banking sector, as we are talking about this banking sector only, so return is pretty high as compared to market. Market return wasn't that much good at that time, but post to this demonetization, that was again decreased to a significant level. It just reduced down to half, and the main issue is with PSU banks, not with private banks. Though private banks will also get affected because of the same, but not that much adversely as these PSU banks were. Okay. Now, what the difference is, there's a significant difference between prices and the stock prices Nifty in pre and post demonetization phase, which means the step of unexpected demonetization damaged the trend followed by the market. So we have few things: the private sector bank and these banks, though post to demonetization, these sectors were, you can say, outperforming the market. But I mean post demonetization, yeah. But after the event, I mean, sorry, this is pre-demonetization figures. Post to that, they also just start facing issues. How that started, we're just going to discuss how this thing start and how they affect the overall banking sector now. Okay. So though we have few points again here, demonetize the government norms, or the you can say requirement by government which they try to fulfill is how they I mean they just try to shift the Indian economy, I mean, towards cashless. Okay, we have a huge increase in the transaction system, which includes e-wallets and e-banking, usage of plastic card and money. And there's again a good you can say remark from statistical department of India, which state that the GDP growth grew by 7% in the fourth quarter in 2016-17, which again you can signal that the impact of this demonetization in short run was negligible. Okay, still Indian economy start growing. But coming to the PSU sectors, if we just check the market increases from 2016 till 2019. As you can see, it raised from 8,000 to 12,000, the figures of Nifty. But talking about the PSU sector, as you can see from here, there is not much difference. Okay, in 2016, the market, this is the particular sector I'm just talking about. It includes all the government banks, which are, I mean, PSU banks working under Indian economy. So the rate of these banks consolidated, the consolidated rate is around 3,000 something. That is the index rate, which is not able to get you can say rise as per the market trend. Okay, so the correlation was again decreased, and it's not able to match the expectations. Now, why this thing start happening? What is the issues which lead to this performance? We are having a market, as you can see in the prior slides, the market increase. The overall Nifty Bank, which is a combination of PSU as well as private sector bank in Indian working in Indian economy, they also started at a significant phase. I mean, it's a very great phase. In 2016, they are around a 19,000 level, which moved and tried to achieve this particular target of 30,000 something by June 2019. So we can see that the market as well as the overall banking sector in India, they just start increasing. But still, what happened in this particular PSU sector, and because of the impact on this particular sector, the whole Indian economy and the banking sector was supposed to revise. I mean, the Indian government has come up with the policy to revise the whole sector. So what happened is, am I visible to everyone? Am I audible? Faisal sir, are you able to hear the people? I mean, am I audible and the PPT is visible to everyone?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir, you are audible perfectly fine. You are perfectly, yeah.
Okay, sir. So just coming to the point, how this thing started happening, how the impact of these this particular demonetization affected the whole Indian sector, Indian banking sector. Okay. So the first point is, when this demonetization happened, banks, they are having now excess money with them. In the short run, as sir told, this was the short run impact of that is that people start to hoard the money. They start to visit the banks, try to fetch their money and keep it in the home. But this wasn't prevailed for too long, and now banks were having extra cash with them because of the same, and because of maintaining the CRR and SLR. Banks are supposed to deposit the same amount with RBI also. Now again, the whole banking system, including RBI, is again having you can say huge surplus funds with them. Now there's a pressure on government to reduce the impact of this demonetization. Okay, undoubtedly we have this thing. I mean, as my colleague Dr. Professor Faisal sir, he told us that government, I mean the Indian economy, they start shaking because of this particular, you can say, step of the government. There's a short-term postponement in the demand. The economy start falling. So how to overcome these issues? There's a pressure over government, so that this particular, you can say, impact of this demonetization can be reduced. Again, they just pass on this pressure to Indian government, I mean Indian banking sector. Now the pressure is on banks to check the, you can say, inflation, to check the, you can say, benefits which person can reap out. This you can say the normal population which are facing the issues, even the business which are working in India, they were facing issues because of the demonetization. Government asked them to reduce the impact over those. So what happened is, now government start, you say, giving loan and providing few liberties over the process. Even priority sector lending were increased, but at the same time, government and even the top management, you can say the top management of government and RBI, they just not able to, you can say, implement the policies which were imposed by government for the safeguard of the you can say, or you can say for bringing the transparency in all. So leading to what policies are, I just try to mention that there's an increase in documentation. We have the new norms regarding KYCs. Okay, we have new norms regarding revision of, you can say, stocks and all, on which government was supposed to grant loan, or you can say grant the CC limits and something. So the documentation part, the list, or you can say the security amount which should be deposited with bank, the document that was there, but the implementation was very poor. Okay, again, management of bank was non-responsive. How this was happening? Banks were supposed to keep keen check over the, you can say, working of their customers. Suppose they just bank, if allowed, you can say, granted a OD limit, overdraft limit, or CC limit, cash credit limit to its customer, then they were supposed to, you can say, give statements of their stock or something every month. Difference, you can see there's a and the last slide I just told you, the impact over government banks is much adverse as compared to private sector banks, because private sector bank, they try to match up with the, you can say, the overall norms which is provided by the government, and try to manage the risk. Okay, they try to mitigate the risk. But these PSU banks, their management was not responsive. They haven't checked the, you can say, stock levels or n number of things. Because of that, their profitability was start decreasing. Now these banks were started doing the you can say window dressing, try to increase the, so that their profitability can be increased. They try to show this thing. Okay, I'm just going to describe the details how they're doing that in the next slide, coming slide. And again, the biased decision by management, the banking sector, even the you can say decision by managers, they were not good. They were granting loans to, you can say, the persons who are not eligible. So these are the process. This is the proper process through which this problem started happening in India post demonetization. There is a rigorous policy to check those points again, but governments manage, you can say, banks management were not responsible regarding that. So what happened is, when we have enough, you can say, excess cash with government or with these banks, management sometimes try to, you can say, fetch out the personal benefits. Okay, we have n number of news at the time of demonetization in that particular year, where the branch manager was using their power for their own benefits. Okay, now, because as I told in the last slide, again, government have pressure, so they started increasing the priority sector lending. There's a quota for these sort of you can say lendings in each and every bank. Talking about the rural banks, which are in the you can say rural areas, they were having this. I mean, the quota there was high. I mean, the margin there was high on this particular sector compared to the branches which are in this urban area. Okay, so pressure on the banks again, because to match up the you can say expectation of the government, they have to do this thing. Okay, because of the same, there's an increase in the stress account. The point is, what is stress account? Stressed account of those accounts where the performance of those accounts are not good. This started happening in the Kisan credit cards. Okay, the KCC, the term which you can see here, huge increase in the stress account in KCC. What happened is, KCC, they just converted it into cash account after 2 years something. Okay, after 3 years, if it is non-operative, it converted into NPA. So before just entering into the phase of NPA, before you can say any account become non-operative, it enters into this particular phase called stress. Okay, they are classified as stressed account. So as I told you in the last slide, again, management was non-responsive to these things. There are strict obligations by government, but government banking sector specifically in this PSU, the PSU banks were not, you can say, fulfilling the criteria of those things. Okay, I mean, they are not fulfilling the criteria, or you can say the margins or the standard which are maintained by bank. On the other side, they are also facing pressure on priority sector lending. So what happened is, in priority sector, the agricultural loans are there. So the KCC, this KCC denotes to the Kisan credit card loans. They just started converting into this, you can moving towards NPA. Now, poor response from management. Next point. Again, in this point, as the stressed account were, you can say, identified, banks were supposed to take few corrective measures. They were supposed to go to the, you can say, farmer or any lenders and try to check the valuation of the collateral securities and all. If it is reduced down, then again, they should collect extra security. If it is not, then they try to reduce the limit of those accounts. But government again was, I mean, the management, not talking about government, but yes, the PSU banks, the management of these banks were again irresponsive in this sector. Now, this was the momentary phase. I mean, when this, you can say, issues were there in this KCC type of accounts, this priority sector lending. The same start happening in urban areas as well. Okay, the accounts which are, you can say, operated in urban area, they are majority of this type, like OD and CC. We have other type of accounts like housing loan, or that is term loan, but majority loans are of OD and CC as per the reports of RBI. So they also start coming into this stress level, I mean, in this particular criteria. Okay, now to overcome this thing, when these accounts, I mean, increase this much significantly, it's you can say start ringing a bell in the ears of this PSU bank management again. So instead of taking a corrective measure, they start again doing this window dressing. They did not reduce their profit, and don't, I mean, if an account was in this particular category, in this stress account, they were supposed to make few reserves for banks. The loans are their advances. If they start making their, you can say, provisions regarding these things, regarding their advance, then that provision was supposed to transfer into the profit and loss account, and their profitability was decreased. Government did, I mean, the banks, PSU banks, they were not in that particular favor. They want to show their profitability. Might be possible because again there was some sort of pressure from ministries as well, but I don't know, that should not be the case. That was not supposed to be there as per the reports which we are having from RBI again. And we are also having poor audit force with us. Okay, normally during an audit of a bank, the auditors, you can say, can be internal, can be external. They were not supposed to get, I mean, provided with sufficient time. A branch which is having more than thousands of accounts in advances, they just provided with 4 to 5 days to, I mean, the auditors are supposed to have 4 to 5 days with them to check the whole branch. So their you can say their checking was also not rigorous. Because of that, what happened is, as you can see again here, this is the types of you can say gross NPA. Okay, accounts which start converting into NPA. A stressed account, after a particular time, when still they are not, you can say, they are not performing, they convert into NPA. So as you can see from this particular slide, in this 2016, from here 15, 16, in 16, the accounts again, specifically in this public sector banks, they started to increase. The stressed account, you can say, start converting into non-performing type of accounts. This was one of the highest in this public sector banks compared to private sector. Private sector, foreign banks, as well as cooperative banks, even rural region banks, they try to minimize those things, but public sector banks were not able to, you can say, mitigate the risk. And because of this particular reasons, we have few impacts. Now what happened is, as we know, there's an increase in deposits, which is an unprecedented issue. There's also fall in the cost of funds, reduction in repo rate. Because of this demonetization, bank reduced the rates. Now, demand of bond security, bond government. There's, because of demonetization, again the long-term impact over the, you can say, throughout the world, even not in India, but also throughout the world, is there's insecurity started developing in the you can say mind of people and the working class in India. So they just try to convert their fundings or securities in, I mean, not in government bonds compared to the banking sector. Okay. So what happened is there's a drop in the confidence. People or the working class, or you can say the people who are having who are the HNIs or something, who are having a good income. I mean, I'm talking about that particular class who's having a very good salary. They try to, you can search a new standard. They don't have faith over Indian government because of this particular step. The currency, even the, you can say, the valuation of rupees was also degraded. Now, which, I mean, in 2015, there is a, I mean, a dollar is of around 55 something to 60 rupees, which is now, I mean, the impact of that demonetization is still going on in Indian economy. Okay, because in 2016, the accounts which are stressed, they are converted eventually into NPA till now also. Because talking about KCC, a single, I mean, that sort of accounts would need to convert into NPA in 3 years. Okay, so the impact of that demonetization is still going on in Indian economy and over the banking sector as well. Okay, so there is a loan, bad loans, there is started multiplying. So there the push, digital banking was there. That was the thrust area by the government that was matched up. But still, there's insecurity in the mind of people. Because of that, the new types of securities which emerges, I mean, the focus over that increase, which is government bought, which is good. But talking about the new standard, which is gold, which is not good for economy. Now, as you can see, the price of gold is skyrocketing again. Talking about this phenomena of COVID-19, because of the same also this is happening. But if you try to, you can say, check the rates of gold in past 3 or 4 years, that was again manifold. Okay, poor profitability again. This was again the, you can say, impact of demonetization in Indian banking sector. The poor advanced classification banks, they did not want to degrade their classification from standard to substandard and NPA. So that again, but eventually they have to do under the pressure, and because of that they started making their provisions and all, because of which the profitability again affected adversely. Also, investors which sense this particular troubles in the early phase, they lose interest and they start moving their investment from the, you can say, share market in this particular sector of PSU banks to other sectors. So what happened because of that? We have bank mergers with us. This was one of the prominent action which was taken by Indian government or in whole of the, you can say, industry. So, especially talking about the PSU's bank, I believe if you can check the history in last 3 or 4 years, there was a merger of banks specifically in this PSU, not in private sector. Though there are few in, but the rationale behind those merger are different. Might be possible there, you can say, competitor try to get the competitive advantage, try to, you can say, access new market, try to fetch few other facility or something. But that wasn't the case with PSUs. Okay, government have, you can say, mergers, they have significant impact over the performance of banks. Customer can have wide, you can say, array of products such as mutual funds, because sometimes a specific bank will specialize in a particular sort of lending and investment, whereas some other bank is expert in some other field. Okay, so government is now trying to encash all this. They are just in the last few years, because of the demonetization, as I told you, there's a huge increase in NPA. Okay, so to overcome and you can say fight with the same, and the restriction which were as Faisal sir told, that these GST and all that was enforced by the Indian government in the last 3-4 years. So to mitigate the you can say, to mitigate the challenge, to try to overcome those challenge, and to you can say strengthen this particular PSU sector and try to, you can say, put it on the right track. There was this activities which is nowadays is very prominent in this particular PSU sectors, that is merger. So we have few examples with us, like 5 banks: State Bank of Bikaner, Jaipur, Hyderabad, Travancore, and Mysore, and Patiala. They just merged with the State Bank of India. Other banks also, like we have a few examples which are again going to happen. So this was the impact. I just try to tell you, we are just Indian economy. You can say, these are the new, you can say, upshoot of this demonetization. There's an increase in NEFT, IMPS, RTGS, and other payment banks and UPI. The role of artificial intelligence will also, you can say, started developing nowadays. Companies, or you can say banks, were taking the help of these artificial intelligence softwares or something to identify the prominent, you can say, accounts which can be classified into stressed account, and they can take you can say, action early also. So this was all happening in this particular sector, and though government initially was able to succeeded in their motive also, they have put the thrust in because of developing these sort of mediums. But still, there are a few other points as well. Like as I told you, in the long run, still we need to identify. We are having a few challenges with us to overcome this, the impact of this demonetization. So I'm done from the side, and I request you all, if you to have questions. I'm just ready to take the question answers. So please come up with your queries.
Prashant sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is there any demonetization takes place in future?
So demonetization is not an activity which can perform in such a short span.
No, sir.
Yeah.
I think demonetization take place in the near future because अगर हमारी इकोनॉमी जो है, अगर 2000 के नोट्स हैं, इसको हमारी इकोनॉमी में अगर ज़्यादा टाइम तक चलेंगे तो ऑब्वियसली हमारी जो ये बहुत बड़ी करेंसी है, तो बड़ी करेंसी है, तो इससे करप्शन और टेररिज्म दोनों ही बहुत ज्यादा रहेगा.
Understand
So,
your point. Understand your point. But the point is that there's two things. Earlier, if you can check the details, earlier the accountability, which is not nowadays. The government
okay.
put restriction. Talking about this government banking sector again, there is a restriction from the side of government which state that if a person is submitting a sum of 5 lakh into their account in cash
Okay.
or withdraw the same, have to submit the detail ASAP with the income tax department. That was not the case earlier in last years.
Okay.
Accumulation of these funds, they take time. They won't happen overnight. Okay,
Overnight. Exactly.
might be possible we can see demonetization, but not in the coming 5 or 10 years from my side.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
I request anyone, if we I mean everyone who's having issues, please come up with your questions so that we can discuss in a better manner.
Prashant sir,
Yes, sir.
I would like to add one more
Sure,
thing,
sir.
is that after demonetization, one RTI was filed by the person. Then RBI disclosed the defaulter list. There were around 30 defaulter.
Okay,
They
hi.
have to pay
Hello.
63,000 crore rupees
Yes, ma'am.
to different banks. This is also, disclosed after the demonetization.
Yes, sir.
Including 30 defaulters. And the sir just asked that in near future, is there any demonetization process will take place? I think that 2,000 rupees will be gradually withdraw from the market by the RBI. It might be possible that after issuing the 1,000 rupees.
Yes, sir. I agree.
This is not a part of,
right
this
now.
is not a part of demonetization.
2,000 rupees now.
Yeah, I can understand that. Okay. Thank you, Faisal. So we have one more question coming up. Please,
Sugandha.
yeah, go ahead.
Sugandha, ma'am, you just.
Okay, hi. This is Sugandha Sharma from Jagan Institute of Management Studies, Rohini. So I have a question. I mean, rather, I want to put across a point. The whole purpose of demonetization was bringing out, as quoted by the government, the black money, which is resting in the hands of the people of the country, and government has never declared the core benefits of demonetization very clearly, and no amount of the exact figures are never they never came out. So what is your take on this?
Ma'am, thank you for coming up with the question. The point is, the impact, I mean, the take of the points which the government focus is in actual what they're stating. I mean, they stated within the PPT or in this particular session, that is attacking on the counterfeit currency, attacking over the, you can say, unaccounted currency and all. But government, what the point is, government wasn't, I mean, they haven't thought that they were able to capture, you can say, get 99% of the currency with them. Okay. This is all because in India we are having, I mean, this was also the report in a Mint, I believe. I'm trying to share the you can say source with you as well. In Indian household sector, what happened is majority of the working class, as Faisal sir told, that there's an issue with the, you can say, working with the women who are in the household women. They used to keep their money from very long time in normal middle class family. Sometime you can say the person who's the the runner of the house, he don't have this clue that they are.
See, as per what I've gained is from what you commented, Prashant, is that 99% is what you've said we have received. Then where did the fake currency go?
This
And
was actually
still people are still holding the funds.
Exactly.
I'm coming to that, ma'am. I'm just coming to
So
that
now
only.
what is the whole purpose and a sense of demonetization, which is still very debatable? And okay, another point I would like to tell you, when you talk about the cash transactions within the country, against when you see somebody carrying a 500 or the 1,000 rupee notes,
2,000
against
rupees.
which they have put a 2,000 rupee note. So carrying a bundle of 2,000 rupees, against which, if you compare, the volume of funds that get transacted is altogether very different now.
Understood your point.
Exactly. Yes, ma'am.
Understood
So
your
what
point.
is the whole purpose as and the sense of
I'm just,
demonetization is still
I'm
under
coming to that. Yeah,
question mark?
ma'am, I'm coming to that. Coming to that now. Ma'am, okay. In the last point, if the as per the reports, and I believe you have gone through n number of research papers, you identified few areas which were supposed to get a very rigorous check over that, like real estate. Real estate, the majority of this black money was roaming in this particular sector. Okay, the sale and purchase of gold, bullions, they were the sectors were supposed to get checked. Earlier, as I told you, this classification of this black money was not happened in a, I mean, overnight. Okay,
Just a small correction, Prashant. 1% of the currency doesn't demonstrate the complete real estate sector. So we are generalizing it under one complete sector itself.
ma'am, that's okay. Note point noted, ma'am. But as per the figures, even the data which I am having, if in the PPT, I believe I just quoted that the real estate sector, which includes top 10 companies with the on the basis of capitalization in market. So that particular sector also took the hit, and because of the same, we have, I mean, those sectors are not able to come up, or you can say at par with the you can say market. Market was increasing, but that sector wasn't able to, you can say, reap out the benefits of that. So, though I'm not, I mean, I can generalize on the basis of the points which I am having with me.
Okay. So by and large, what I see it after my understanding and based on the literature that I've reviewed so far is it has not been a successful attempt on the part of the government.
Oh, yeah. But the point is,
Then why, if it had been such a successful thing, people are still holding a huge amount of cash
yes,
and
ma'am.
a lot of cash transactions
Ma'am,
still happening.
accountability is
The whole
high.
purpose.
Yes, ma'am, I understand. But the point is
There
now
are
accountability is
people
high.
in the other countries who are still holding the old notes, the older currency notes. So
Ma'am,
I think the whole purpose of the way it was shown is completely defeated.
yes, ma'am. And this was not only with the, we can say, the purpose of government, but the point is self-interest of the managers or the management of bank. They also helped this particular thing in happening. Okay. But this wasn't the, you can say, I can't blame government over this, the failure. I mean, we are also somewhat, you can say, involved in this particular failure.
Monetary structure are the main failure of the demonetization.
Yeah, it is.
The main aim of the Indian government of the demonetization to combat the black money in the economy. जो मेन कोर जो गवर्नमेंट का एम था ना वो ब्लैक मनी को इकोनॉमी के अंदर होल्ड करके जो रखा हुआ था उसी के लिए ही था. एंड कितने टाइम्स डिमोनेटाइजेशन हो चुका है प्रशांत सर
Yeah.
इंडिया के अंदर बिफोर इंडिपेंडेंस एंड आफ्टर इंडिपेंडेंस.
I believe it's more than two times. We have the
More
details.
than 2 times. Yes, more than 2 times. First, before the 1947, 1946,
1946 and 1978.
1978, second demonetization takes place.
Yeah, this was the third time. Yeah.
Okay, third time. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, I think, hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sir,
hello.
please.
So it was pretty good, like the hot discussions of such kind, if they keep on going and the issues become debatable, it's really wonderful. And that's how the whole intellectual property of the country grows. And thank you, Prashant and Faisal, for such a wonderful session. I'm extremely sorry with the participants for first few minutes of technical glitch. So we'll try to ensure that next time it doesn't happen. And I really enjoyed the entire session.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Shubham.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Director
Thank
sir,
you,
for your
participants. Thank you, Shubham, sir.
kind words. I would just like to make last few announcements for all of you. The session was very exhaustive and very
Thanks a lot,
thought-provoking.
sir. Thanks for the
Thank you.
all information.
Thank you,
It
sir.
was
Thank
very,
you. Thanks to all of
very
you for
informative.
participating.
Exactly, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yes, please continue,
Yeah.
Shubham Agarwal,
So the
sir.
point is, the information which I need to supply is, please fill the feedback form in the chat option. Then only we can enable you the e-certificates of participation, otherwise not. Also, the second announcement is, we have series of webinar planned for all of you. If you can see, I am just sharing the screen for the next webinar. So I request all of you to please join the next webinar, that is by Dr. Vandana Parikh on future prospects and marketing. So this is the series that will continue till June. The screen is there in front of you all. And we have some other webinars on some different topics for the whole month of June. So you will be having lots of learnings, lots of new areas of knowledge through Lloyd Business School's webinar series. Third last announcement is you will be getting the e-certificates of participation on or before the next webinar. That is on Thursday or before Thursday you will get the certificates. But for that, you need to first register and then finally you need to fill the feedback form. With this, I take rest for today's session. Thank you all of you for your kind participation. Thank you speakers for the day, Dr. Prashant sir and Faisal sir for your kind words, your areas of expertise, Sugandha ma'am and all the participants who actively engaged in the exhaustive session of discussion, Director sir for his kind words and whole family of Lloyd. We welcome you and we finally thank you for your kind participation.